if it will work. It does. So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The Wasteless World Talks are here with Kevin and Bill and me. And again, we don't know what we will talk about, but I think that we continue what we did last time. We used the topic which we discussed on the noon event, in the audio event. And this time it will be very interesting because we will speak about the truth. Last time we spoke about the lies. So these two are very closely connected. And especially I see more and more frequently in relation to Industry 5.0, how much money is being invested just to not to reveal the truth that Industry 5.0 was found by the simple man. That's so unpleasant for the people who invested so much money. So they are investing millions of dollars. And one very fresh information from today in the morning. Just before Christmas, Jaguar Land Rover announced that they would like to go in direction to Industry 5.0. This officially, they created a board. And yesterday, same information announced Airbus. And they are looking, they do not want to create a board to help them, but they are looking for an employer or employee who will generally take this role. And we are speaking about Airbus. Generally, the German office has this requirement. And I found it today in the morning. So, but speaking about the truth, I have a very special question for you. I put it at the end of my morning's discussion, but because you are excellent speakers and thinkers, so which imperfection of your life you are the mostly proud of? Not perfect, but imperfect moment or feeling or whatever. What you are the mostly proud of?
So I admit to some discomfort in trying to answer that because what I'm the most proud of makes me sound like I'm bragging. What I'm the least proud of, gosh, I don't really want to go there either.
Let me add one short information. We came to the point that generally nature is not perfect. We discussed it ourselves several times. And because it's not perfect, it is perfect. This is this wabi-sabi Japanese philosophy. And generally, if we make something which is not perfect, it can be valued most. And one of the answer of the people who answered to this question was, for example, I am mostly proud of my kids. Because they don't simply follow what I told them, but they have their own brains. They are not perfect, but they are perfect. And that was one of the answers. So in this way, because this is and generally the imperfect things are the real things. So we are not pretending that we deliver everything perfect. So this is the imperfect thing is something like the truth which you can touch. It's not perfect, but it's true. And this is how we came to this question generally. So if it's uncomfortable for you, you can answer at the end of the session. I don't let you go without, but let's talk about the truth. So was there any moment when you said to you, okay, I will fight for this moment because it's impossible that it still is pretended to be the truth, but it's a lie? Was there anything? I'm sure with Kevin, there has been a lot of, and in your experience, Bill, I think in the factories, you have seen similar many times.
Of course. Kevin, jump in there. Feel free to relieve me.
There's been a couple of projects that I was asked to work on that I said no to because they smelled of greenwashing, or they were simply magnifying some small thing to make it seem extremely big and extremely large. And so, and that's something you can only do when you work for yourself. It's so I was actually really pleased to start working for other people and work for myself, and then have the ability and the freedom to say no.
I've had similar experiences, Kevin, and I appreciate you sharing that, where the company wanted to do something, and remembering that I depended on that paycheck every week to put food on the table for my family. That's very difficult to say no to, especially when you can come up with rationale for accepting this, right? Because nobody knows everything. So why say this will never happen? So, and there've been a few instances like that. Um, in one case, we were taking we had been selected for a contract. We were a small company, 30 people, engineering company, and we put in a bid to develop a new type of sensor, and they awarded it to us, but we had proposed it as a cost plus contract. And I don't know if you are familiar with cost plus contracts. That means you agree on the rates and you agree on everything, but if it takes 100 hours to do it rather than 50 hours to do it, you're still going to get paid. And as a small company, we could not. So we proposed it as a cost plus, and they came back and said, we've awarded it to you, but we'd like you to consider it a firm fixed price contract. And the president said, yes, we will. And I said, no, we will not. And that went on for about a week. And finally he agreed. In the end, we went over budget by about 300%. And so I pat myself on the back, but it was, for some reason I stood up and said no, and I'm not famous for that, but it just was wrong. Throughout my life, Michael, I've had many times when I've agreed to something that I should not have agreed to, and especially it starts with small steps. So it's a very personal question, and I think we have all done that. I assume we've all done that. I've not had this conversation too often, but I think we've all done that where we want very much to either stay with this person or stay with this job or whatever it is that our goal is. And to do that, we agree to certain things that if we were not in that position, we would not agree to. We would have walked away from. And have you two felt the same way? Have you been in similar situations where you agree to things that you don't think later, or even while you're doing it, don't think that you should have agreed to?
I was when I was working in advertising, we had a customer join us who they didn't want to work with us, but because we were in an international business, their head office decided that they had to work with us now. And the boss of the company came in, and you could just see that this was never going to work anyway. And he came and sat down, and we tried to make it work, but it was impossible. It never did work. It never would work. He didn't want to work with us. He was forced to work with us. He didn't want to be polite. He didn't want to be nice. He didn't want to be helpful in any way. But we sat through these torment meetings week after week after week because we had no choice. And that was horrible.
I had recently, a few years ago, just before COVID, I have a project accepted. There was a Portuguese boss generally of the factory, and he asked me to change generally some processes in the factory. Because he said to me, you are the professional, you know how to do. But the issue was that he has very exact image how it should be done. And my image was very different. And he never told me, but it was so hard to work in this environment, as you said, Kevin, that generally I quit the project after just 1.5 months because it completely sucked me out. All the energy was away, and I was not able. I need to relax generally 1 month after that because it was so tiring. But on the other hand, there is a lot of things where it's much more easier to say yes. That's generally, I don't know why it's easier, but it is easier. Even if you go, if you marry, you say, I will. So it's another way to say yes. But we have this presidential election. So one of the candidate was really a criminal generally, which tried to get through the presidency his complete legal action for the future. So to legalize all his action, because you cannot sanction the president in my country. He did not win, luckily, but he created a party in 2011. It was called Yes, in Czech, ANO, ANO. And already in 2016, I wrote that he will apply for the candidacy for president, and he did 7 years later. But what is horrible, I don't know whether you know about it, but in the Second World War, the Mussolini, so the Italian president generally, or the chief, or I don't know what was the function, he created a party at the time. And the name of the party was C, which is yes. And he was a fascist, so generally, and it's quite easy because the people, for whatever reason, I can't answer the reason, I don't know, but for whatever reason, we prefer to say yes, because probably we don't like to stay in opposite, or I don't know why it is, I don't know. But at the time, I proposed a second party, and it should be called No. Or better to say in Czech, ne, N-E, which is no. But it has a meaning. Ne means no elites, no elites. So we are not elites. We are just people. And that's great, because just now, today in the morning, Svein, which is the ambassador in Norway, he sent me an interview with one famous footballer, current footballer from Spain. He plays right now in Germany, I think. And he was asked, after a successful match, he was asked what he is the most proud of. And his answer 1 day or 2 days ago was that I am human. That's great. And it's not the first one. More and more frequently, I hear these statements from people. And I hope this is the moment, because Bill named it, that we reach already the critical point, or critical mass, you said. And I think this is the mass when we start to understand really who we are, not keeping the lies that I am the engineer, I'm the president, or I am whatever. No, the only ultimate truth is that we are humans. All the others can be pretended. The humanity is hard to be pretended. You can pretend it for short time, but in a long time perspective, I think very few can pretend to be human.
So the question being, what are you most proud of? I took that to mean something that I accomplished. So the fact that I am human, I had nothing to do with. God put me here, my parents, whatever, but not me. So I would not have answered that I'm most proud of being human. I would have answered is something that I did, that I accomplished. Even the thing that makes me happiest in my life is my wife, more than my job, more than whatever. And yet, I don't think I had a whole lot to do with that. It was absolute circumstance. The probability of that ever happening was infinitesimal. So minor. She was born in Minsk. I was born in Pittsburgh. For us to have ever met was such an improbability. I had nothing to do with that. It makes me the happiest, but I had nothing to do with that. So what did I have something to do with? And what I have accomplished, there are very few things that I've accomplished for which I have no regrets. I have regret. There were things I should have done different, or I hate that word should, but I'll use it. I should have done differently in everything that I've accomplished. So that's a difficult question for me.
one of the answer when I asked in the morning was, the most imperfect, what I'm proud of is myself, because I'm not perfect. And that's great, because this imperfection make us really to look for being better or improve ourselves, learn. I will say more learn. I think it's not about improving ourselves, but it's about learning. And this, I like really this wabi-sabi feeling, because it's nice. The perfection is in imperfection. That's great. The Japanese have something to do. What is interesting, this wabi-sabi is from Japan, but you see very few who really follow this. This is more the philosophical level, but then if you look at the products and everything, the Japanese do not release anything what is not perfect. Just now I am waiting for a paint, which you can paint on the walls and on the roof, and it reflects 92.7% of heat. So you can imagine, if you put it on your walls, you can reduce the temperature just by the paint by 5 to 14%. Without electricity, you just paint your house with a different material. But they will never release if it will not work. I worked for 5 years for the Japanese corporation, and there was a Czech movie, you will not, I not know, it's about time travel and so on. And there was a moment when the people came from the future to current times generally, and they need a screen or a TV to have a picture transmitted from a small camera, and they just spray on the mirror, and the mirror become TV generally. And it was in 1980, somewhere around this was this series made. And you know, the corporation I work with, they have this solution already, because on the 50-inch TV, the material which really project the picture weighed 0.3 gram. So why not to have it in spray? But the issue why it's not still on the market, because the yellow color was not right. And the Japanese will never get it on the market without. If the Chinese get it in their hands, already every single one of us have a TV in spray, because it will be just fun. We don't care whether yellow is not perfect. We will not care. But the Japanese don't do that. And this is why it's so surprising that this wabi-sabi came from Japan.
Excuse me, we're familiar with the Toyota, the Toyota story, and there was a couple of good books and lots of college classes taught on it, where they celebrated when somebody pointed out a mistake that they had made. Whereas in most other cultures, you try to hide the mistake that you've made, covered up, whatever. So it's an interesting culture. I've not been that close to it, but I'm going to look up that wabi-sabi as you describe it.
It's really interesting. So but coming back, I have a lot of thoughts after our last talks about lies generally, because it was so interesting topic that it still play in my head over and over and over, and I try to find out how generally we can really support the truth in revealing the lies. But what we have realized today in the morning was that if truth will be something which you can touch, so like a product which you produce or whatever, and there will be the story that this is really the true product, then it will help us to reveal that the lies are just, you cannot touch the lie generally. How you will touch the lie? Lie is something which is not existing. It's pretending to exist, but in fact is not existing. So it should not be so difficult to teach the people how to recognize one from the other. And I don't speak here about my truth or your truth. I'm speaking about, I don't know, the tree is true product of nature. So this is the truth. You can touch it. And the lie will be the trees are made by human in a laboratory. And you will never see it. It's a virtual. So the tree is virtual, let's say the meta. And in this direction, I think we will be able to recognize that. But right now, as I'm speaking about it, I'm not sure about this idea anymore.
I think that the truth is a belief system, or truth itself is a belief system. And that you, like any religion, you will believe in some things and not in others. Then there's a lot of different truths. And I think these days, truth is a mass-produced commodity. There are companies which produce whatever kind of truth you want. If you want a big truth, a small truth, a truth that fits this, a truth that supports that, they will generate it, they will distribute it, and they will get it seen everywhere you need it to be seen. It is it is something that we want to believe in.
But is this really the truth? Or is it the pretending the truth?
It's like I say, it's the truth that you either do believe in, or you want to believe in, or you're forced to believe in.
Is it possible that there's no such thing as truth?
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So I was brought up in the 50s and 60s where religion was the truth, or even the government says it is. And we see the flaws, on all of that. What is the truth? Almost everything that we either see or could change the next time Einstein discovers a new law of nature, a law of physics. I'm not sure that there is any such thing as truth. I tend to go more with Kevin that it's a series of beliefs.
And I think, taking Bill's point a bit further, we're not constructed for truth. I mean, we have a visual system, we have a hearing system, we have all our senses, but they are tuned in certain ways to filter things, to interpret things, to ignore things. Prejudgment is a great human ability, and the receptors, the way that we can accept truth, isn't built for any universal truth. It's a truth that we can accept.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Can we say, for example, that the truth is, for example, the existence of something? So if I take the cup, it's a true because I can touch it. Because with the other senses, it's quite easy to trick them. You can trick your eyes, you can trick your ears, you can trick even your, on the tongue generally, the nose. But with the touch, it's very hard to trick.
There's exceptions to that.
Okay.
I think, Michael. If I go to the metaverse and I put on my gloves that are tactile gloves filled with sensors, or I step in the metaverse and I'm skiing down one of your beautiful mountains, and I can feel on my face the wind, and I'm cold, and I can feel the bumps of the. So feeling has limitations also.
On the other hand, okay, let's extend it. We have 9 more minutes just to tell you it's really going faster and faster every time. Let's say if I can touch it and without need of anything, any artificial support, let's modify this touch. I know that I even have the possibility for example, I cannot watch these virtual glasses. My brain does not work with that, and I'm sick after that very fast. And even the US Army tried, and they get rid of it because it did not work with the soldiers. But if I say, okay, what I can sense without any support, then I think that, you know why I like the touch? Because the touch generally, it's every single cell in our body or on the skin feel the touch. With the eyes, we have just two. With the ears, we have just two. With the nose, just one. Of course, on the tongue, there is millions of this sense, whatever how it's called in English. But this is why I'm so sensitive about the power of touch, you know, because I think that the power of touch is the creation. It's another word for a creating things. But I have to really think deep about whether there is really existing a truth in general. But for me, because I'm combating lies with the truth, so I think it is. But right now I see that it will be hard to define.
Yeah, I think that there is a difference between truth and facts. And I think that truth is it transforms. So what you hold a cup today, that's a kind of a truth, but in 10 years' time, that cup won't exist anymore. It'll be broken, it'll be whatever's happened to it. So it is, in a way, it is no longer true.
So again, very interesting discussion, as I said. So I like this type of discussion because it really helps us to work with the brain. I have a great experience today in the morning. I told you that I am doing the time travel generally and using my blog. And today it was quite interesting because I wake up at 4 in the morning. I was in the office already. At 4:30, I receive a message from someone from Pakistan that he would like to meet and talk about cooperation. It shows up that we are connected for a longer time, but we never spoke together. And he is an expert in the fashion industry, working for many brands in the fast fashion and so on. And what was interesting that 30 minutes after we finish our talk, and we generally agreed on cooperation, my next article for the blog was published, and I wrote this article on April 24th, 2022. And it's called Industry 5.0 and Textile Industry. And exactly in the day when he contacted me, he cannot see it because it was published after we talked. We came to this moment. So I think that you can go with the time travel, you can be accurate up to hour or even minutes probably if you do, because you create the future. And this is right now the question where we come to the truth and false or facts or lies, because what is what you create? What is the future you create? Because all of us, we create a future. We do not just envision it, we create it. This is the difference between us and some people who just speak about it, thinking or wishing the future. We don't do it. We try to deliver the future. So is it true? Is it fact? I don't know how to name it. For me, it's the future which I'm creating. This is why I was able to be so accurate without even knowing it, because I don't know what will be published. There is a little mess in the publishing system which I use generally. So, but it's quite interesting what we are creating: the truth or the lie. What is the future?
That's the question, and I couldn't agree with you more. These discussions are creating the future, and I've had similar experiences, Michael, and just recently, my wife and I were talking, and we mentioned some old friends that we had not spoken to in several months. It wasn't 60 seconds later when her cell phone rang, and it was the lady calling after several months. And that sort of thing has repeated itself several times. So how did that happen? And I think maybe in 50 years or 100 years, some very smart person will figure that out. Won't that be interesting? But in the meantime, we're just looking at the mist and trying to envision what forms, what shapes are going to form out of that mist, right? But in looking at the future, uh, there are facts and trends all around us. You're telling the future, but really you're just seeing where the trends today that anybody is free to see, where are they leading, and the possibilities and so on. I can't wait to get to the future. I love talking about it because I think in talking about it, we are in fact creating it. So keep up the good work.
3 more minutes to go. Kevin, your turn.
There's one thing I've been thinking about with the future a lot, and that is that the more you know the direction of travel, the more clearly you will be able to see where the future is going.
Well said. Which means if you envision properly, so for me, wasteless world, it's simple. As I said all the time, I'm just a simple man with simple aim to build wasteless world for all. And it's quite interesting what you said, because I had a discussion today in the morning again with someone who just do the ESG and life cycle analyst and so on. They created a software and a lot of things around. And we came to the point that he said, but we can implement it in any factory. And I said, yeah, and are you sure that they are doing that? And he said, no. We create the papers. They can do work with the papers. They can present the papers. But I'm not sure they will do it. And I said,
Right. It's like lean. You can teach them all day long, but whether or not it's implemented in the optimum fashion, you'll never know.
And it is exactly the difference of Industry 5.0 generally, because we deliver the result first and we report after. So we turn it around completely. Whether it will be perfect or not, for me, is the truth. So it's the result. Take it, work with it. Do you like it? Then use it. If you do not like it, don't use it. It's your decision. We have 1 more minute to go. I think today is slightly shorter because of this camera issues at the beginning. So we are probably 5 minutes shorter, but I cannot do anything with it. So we will meet again on the original location on Google Meet to finish this conversation, or we never finish this. We have to say this to the audience. We never finish. We try, but never finished. But let me wish everyone, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its form. Stay safe and free, and be true. Because this is how you will live your life meaningful. I'm sure you will. Thanks a lot, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.